The film begins with a strong woman named Ywa who works as a firefighter. At that time, she's gaining a lot of attention in Korea because she recently saved a man and his dog from a dangerous situation. So Ywa looks up to her father a lot. He used to be a firefighter too, but sadly, he's not around anymore. Since he passed away, Ywa keeps having dreams about something bad that happened in the past. In her dreams, she sees a fight between a rebel group called Gaia General and a kingdom led by a young general named Doha. In this war, Doha managed to defeat the rebel leader who started the rebellion. To show others not to rebel, Doha ordered his soldiers to arrest the families of the rebel leaders. However, one of them, Rita, managed to hide and survive. Sadly, all of Rita's family members except her were publicly executed. Rita witnessed this horrible event with her own eyes. Since then, she has been filled with anger and vowed to seek revenge for her family's death by killing Doha herself. One night, she succeeded in killing him. After his death, Doha's spirit promised to find Rita in the next life to take revenge. Nowadays, in 2023, the entertainment world is buzzing about a super good-looking new artist. His name is Juno. He's at the top of his game, getting offers left and right from companies wanting to work with him. Juno has a girlfriend who is also an artist named Ywa. So Juno loves his girlfriend a lot. He always tries to do whatever she wants and listens to her. But sadly, she takes advantage of Juno's fame to boost her own career. One morning, Juno's manager, Ywa, went to his house to tell him it was time to start filming. But instead, Ywa found a note from Ywa saying she wanted to end their relationship. Later, Juno and Ywa, who's getting a lot of attention, were shooting an ad together. Instead of focusing on the shoot, Juno kept calling Ywa. Feeling ignored, Ywa took Juno's phone away. There, Juno got upset and chased after her, causing a scene. Someone recorded the whole thing on purpose. On the other hand, we see Juno's older brother, Mino. He got news from the doctor that Juno was very sick with heart cancer and might not have much time left. Meanwhile, Juno himself was in his car when suddenly he passed out and the car started moving on its own. Because of this, he fainted and was rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctors and nurses tried hard to make Juno's heart beat again, but sadly, it never did. Eventually, he was declared dead. But then, something strange happened in the morgue. It turned out that Doha's spirit had entered Juno's body. Doha was really happy because now he had a body to use to get revenge on Rita, who had been reincarnated in the body of Ywa. The story goes back to a night in the past when Doha was being chased by royal soldiers. Rita was with him, and luckily he managed to save her from danger. But then, out of nowhere, Rita unexpectedly attacked Doha and killed him with a sword. After Doha died, instead of moving on to the afterlife, his spirit stayed with Rita, following her wherever she went, even through her different reincarnations over 1500 years. His goal was to stop her reincarnation forever. Now back to the present, Ywa is shocked to see Juno, who she thought had died, alive in front of her. Despite her surprise, she's thankful he's alive. Suddenly, Doha faints, but when he wakes up, he remembers all of Juno's memories. The next day, after coming back from the hospital, Juno was given a script by his brother for a film he would do with Ywa. At that time, Mina was surprised to see how much Juno had changed. Juno used to be very lively and active, but now he seemed different. The doctor said it was because of the trauma he went through. As Juno read the script, he suddenly remembered something from Ywa's childhood. She was given an amulet by a little monk. At that time, Juno realized that the amulet might be the reason Ywa was protected. The next day, he asked Ywa to find information about monks who make amulets. But Ywa didn't want to because he was annoyed with Juno being so obsessed with Ywa. Then, Doha revealed to Ywa that he wasn't really Juno, but a spirit from the past using his body for revenge. Ywa couldn't believe it at first, but Doha proved it to him. That evening, Juno had a visitor named Taeju. Taeju is Juno's rival in the world of art, and is very jealous because Juno is going to star in a great movie. Taeju even threatened to harm Ywa because she's close to Juno. Meanwhile, Ywa, because of her accomplishments, got selected to represent Korea for research in Antarctica. That afternoon, she went to a hill where her father was buried. Proudly, she showed her father the achievements she had accomplished. At that time, Ywa also promised her late father that she would fulfill his dream of being the first Korean woman to go to Antarctica. On her way back, she saw Juno with Ywa heading to an old temple. At the temple, Juno is searching for an amulet that can break the protection surrounding Ywa. but no matter how hard he looks, he can't find it. Then, a young monk sees Juno and gets scared because he realizes that Dova's spirit has possessed Juno's body. That afternoon, Ywa receives a call from her boss saying that her trip to Antarctica is postponed because she needs to finish filming with Juno first. Ywa hurries to the shooting location right away. When Ywa arrived, she quickly searched for and followed Juno. But when she reached his car, she was shocked to find Juno unconscious. At the same time, Mino got a report from the police saying that Juno's car going into the ocean was no accident because it was planned. Then Yunjae called Mino to say that Juno was kidnapped. They decided to find Juno, and on the way, they met Taeju. Mino remembered that Taeju had threatened Juno the night before and accused him. Taeju denied it, but soon after, some people sent by Taeju confessed they failed to kidnap Juno. The police then took them all for investigation. Meanwhile, in an old empty warehouse, Ywa wakes up tied up and realizes she's been captured by some tough guys. She quickly tries to break free using a knife she had with her. After freeing herself, Ywa fights back against the thugs, but they keep knocking her down, causing her to faint again and pass out. On the other hand, we see Park Sok, the man Ywa saved, giving orders to the thugs who have captured Juno and Ywa, telling them to kill them both. Then, just as the thugs are defeated, the police arrive. They are surprised to see Ywa, who managed to defeat her captors. However, instead of being praised, she is accused of using too much force in defending herself. She could even be considered a suspect if one of the thugs died. From that moment on, Ywa has to go to the police station for questioning. It turns out that Juno orchestrated the whole thing to trap Ywa, so that his brother could make her his bodyguard. At the fire station, a lot of people were protesting to get Ywa fired. They were upset because there's a video circulating online showing Ywa hurting Juno. Because of this protest, Ywa got in trouble with her bosses, and they decided she couldn't work for 3 months. Later that day, Mino came to talk to Ywa. He asked her to protect Juno because many people want to hurt him. Ywa needed a job, so she agreed right away. The next day, Ywa started working as Juno's personal bodyguard. Soon after, they went to an event where they read scripts for a play. Everyone, including Yisol, was amazed at how well Juno could read the scripts now. Before, he always struggled with them. The next day, Taeju got a surprise visit from Park Sok, who suddenly wanted to shake hands. During this greeting, Taeju seemed like he was hypnotized. Meanwhile, Ywa, who was picking up Juno's clothes, was shocked to find them covered in bloodstains from the day before. Remembering what happened between them, she decided to talk to Juno about it. But he avoided the conversation, claiming the clothes weren't his. Eventually, they realized that the bracelet Ywa always wore was actually protecting her. Meanwhile, Taeju, still in a hypnotic state, was driving his car and almost hit Juno. Luckily, Ywa intervened just in time to save him. She was rushed to the hospital, and seeing her condition, Juno fainted. So, in the past, Rita tried to harm Doha multiple times, but Doha forgave her each time. He even brought her to his kingdom to work. Doha became known for getting rid of traitors, which impressed the king. However, his own father, instead of showing appreciation, gave him poisoned fruit. It's rumored that Doha isn't his father's biological child and that his father actually wishes for his death. Once, Doha and Rita went to a hill to pray for the people Doha had to harm under the king's orders, even though he didn't want to hurt anyone. On their way back, it started raining, so they found shelter in a cave. In that cave, Doha, who grew up without much love, felt like he would be okay dying, especially if it was by Rita's hands. Rita was angry when she heard this. She felt it would be pointless to kill Doha, who was already resigned to his fate because he wouldn't feel the pain she had been carrying all this time. Back in the present, Juno wakes up feeling disoriented and rushes to Ywa's room with the intention of harming her. But just as he's about to do something, she wakes up and calls him my master. This surprises Juno, and he gives up his plan and leaves. Weeks go by, and Ywa finds her bracelet and fully recovers. One day, Juno goes to watch Ywa from afar, but when she notices him, he quickly leaves. Concerned for Juno, Ywa goes to his house. There, she's shocked to find him in a weak and vulnerable state. She urges him to keep going despite his condition, echoing something Rita had said in the past. Afterward, Ywa meets with Mino to share what happened with Juno. There, Mino reveals that Juno's condition is deteriorating, and the doctors believe he might only have about a month left to live. Meanwhile, Doha confides in Yunjae that for the past 15 years, he's been searching for Rita's reincarnation, and Ywa is the closest match he's found. Ywa even speaks like Rita used to. Looking back in time, ever since Rita came into his life, Ywa felt cared for in a way he never had before. Despite others, even his own father, wishing for Ywa's death, Rita encouraged him to live. Even though her intentions were to make Ywa suffer, being with her brought him a peace and comfort he'd never known. He found it easier to sleep when she was around, despite his usual struggles with sleep. In the past, Ywa's stepfather found out about Rita, who was known for rebelling. He planned to use Rita to trap Ywa. One night, after Ywa returned from war, he asked Rita what he planned to do after killing him. Rita replied that he had no reason to live after Ywa was gone. Hearing this, Ywa decided to keep living so Rita would have a reason to stay in the world. He gave Rita lotus flower seeds that would only bloom after 1,000 years, but Rita didn't believe it. So, Ywa challenged him to a bet to see who would stay alive long enough to see the flowers bloom. Back in the present, all of this was just a dream Ywa had while sleeping on a bus. The following day, Taeju finds himself pressured by Park Sok to write a will, hinting that Park Sok might be planning something sinister. Meanwhile, Ywa is staying at Juno's house. News spreads that ancient lotus seeds, planted 1,000 years ago, have bloomed into flowers. At that time, she unconsciously mentions losing a bet, sparking Juno's curiosity about whether she remembers Rita's past or if it's just a coincidence. The next day, Juno asks Ywa about her dream from the hospital, where she called him Sir. There, Ywa shares all her dreams, from meeting Rita to the present. This makes Ywa realize that Ywa's dreams now hold memories from the past. One day, Juno and Ywa found themselves in an elevator with a young monk who had recently realized that Ywa's spirit was now inside Juno's body. The monk tried to talk to Ywa's spirit, asking it to leave Juno's body and even put an amulet on to protect against evil spirits. Suddenly, Juno fainted and Ywa was shocked to find his pulse had stopped. Then, Ywa's spirit appeared in front of her. Later, when Ywa got home, she was scared to realize she could see the person from her dreams. She remembered seeing Ywa's spirit when she was younger. The next day, Juno went back to the monk's temple to warn them not to interfere. But the head monk told him that dealing with hatred wasn't just about seeking revenge. Ywa needed to understand why he was still in this world. On that day, Mino decided to stay with his younger brother temporarily because he was really worried about Juno's safety, because someone was threatening him. Shortly after, Juno showed Mino a photo he was sure was the mastermind behind yesterday's kidnapping. Mino gave the photo to a lawyer to investigate. Later, when the lawyer left Juno's house, he got a call from Park Sok, who wanted to meet him. At the same time, Ywa, who couldn't stop thinking about what happened yesterday, suddenly remembered the young monk she had met recently. She immediately tried to find out where he was. On the other hand, Juno the lawyer is on his way to meet Park Sok when he accidentally bumps into someone, who turns out to be Taeju. Meanwhile, Ywa has arrived at the monk's temple and meets the head monk. The monk tells her that the amulet she always wears is made from a lotus flower seed and can protect her from evil spirits. After leaving the temple, Ywa meets Juno on a bridge. There, Ywa asks Juno what he meant when he said he was just borrowing a body. Juno plays with the lights and reveals he's not a human but a spirit controlling Juno's body. To prove it, Ywa mentions incidents from Ywa's childhood that only she would know about. However, Ywa thinks Juno is just a stalker. The next day, Juno invites her to meet again to reassure her. During their meeting, Ywa mentioned Ywa's dreams and asked her to keep sharing what happened next. But she felt uneasy and dismissed her dreams as made-up stories. She didn't want to talk about them anymore. In the past, when Ywa rescued Rita, he did everything he could to protect her. He was even willing to get seriously hurt to save her, even though she was planning to harm him. When he woke up after fainting, Ywa immediately asked where Rita was. His father claimed to have killed her. This made Ywa very angry, and he threatened to end Rita's life if she was truly dead. Then his father brought forward a witness who accused Rita of being a traitor. In a fit of rage, Ywa drew his sword. But instead of Rita, he accidentally killed the witness. His father then pressured Ywa to marry Rita to fulfill his plans. Back in the present, in Mino's office, the lawyer brings Park Sok and Mino together. At first, Mino is furious with Park Sok because he had encouraged Taeju to harm Juno. However, Park Sok surprises Mino by understanding his feelings. He reveals that Juno is no longer himself, but a curious spirit occupying his body. Then Park Sok instructs Mino to ask Juno tricky questions about their shared memories to prove who is really inside Juno's body. In the past, after returning from war, Doha collapses exhausted on Rita's lap. At that time, Rita, who is Doha's wife, cares for him and stays by his side when he's sick. While looking after him, Rita notices a knife nearby. This reminds her of the pain her family suffered because of Doha's actions. Rita is tempted to harm Doha, but finds herself unable to go through with it, and instead she cries. After waking up from fainting, Doha sees the knife that Rita had tried to use on him. He immediately confronts her about giving up her plan to harm him. There, Rita confesses that her desire to harm Doha has diminished because she's more concerned about his safety now. This story is revealed in Ywa's dream, making her emotional and tearful when she wakes up. She feels guilty for her behavior towards Juno the day before. Later that day, Ywa is invited to dinner with Mino. During the dinner, Mino asks Juno a tricky question about a childhood memory, where someone climbed a big rock in the sea and fell into the ocean. Mino pretends to forget who fell and asks Juno. At that time, Juno answers that he was the one who fell. This shocks Mino, because it was actually Mino who fell in the past. Now he realizes that Juno's body is indeed possessed by an evil spirit. After dinner, Ywa apologized to Juno for her behavior the day before. She explained that she had dreamt about the story again, and is determined to continue dreaming to uncover what really happened in the past. The next day, Mino dreamt of Juno asking for help. In the morning, Ywa was upset because she hadn't dreamt about Doha and Rita's story again. When she met Juno, she tried to stall to avoid disappointing him. Luckily, Yisol arrived with a photo showing how close Ywa and Juno were. There, Yisol threatened to share a photo to make Ywa a target of online criticism for supposedly stealing someone else's lover. Hearing that, Juno got upset, worried about Ywa's safety. Then, Yisol proposed that Juno pretend to be her boyfriend to prevent the photo from being shared. Reluctantly, he agreed. Soon after, they staged a photo shoot to make their relationship look closer than it really was, hoping to gain public sympathy. At the event, Ywa felt jealous seeing Juno and Yisol together. But in private, Juno, or Doha, expressed that the most beautiful woman in the world was Rita, who was now inside Ywa. Meanwhile, at the police station, they received news about Taeju's body being found in a lake. At the same time, Mino received a will from Taeju, claiming that Mino and Juno were responsible for his death. After that, Mino went with his lawyer to meet Park Sok, believing he was the only one who could help remove Doha's spirit from Juno's body. When they arrived, Park Sok showed signs that he understood what Juno was going through. He explained that if they expelled Doha's spirit too quickly, Juno's life might be in danger. When Mino returned home, he was shocked to see dark marks on Juno's body, indicating that he had limited time to save Juno's life. On another day, Juno decided to accompany Ywa wherever she went to ensure her safety. That morning, Ywa planned to go to an amusement park with her best friend, Nayeon. At the park, Yoonjae advised Juno to wear a mask to avoid being recognized. At that time, they enjoyed their time together at the park. After a while, Juno planned to wait for them in the car. But suddenly, some fans of Juno arrived. Seeing them, Ywa and Juno quickly ran into the haunted house ride. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mino was devastated to learn that Juno's illness couldn't be cured unless a miracle happened. Realizing this, Mino sought help from Park Sok. There, Park Sok explained that Juno's only hope was to break the strong bond between him and Ywa, which could only be done by killing Ywa. Meanwhile, at the end of the day spent at the amusement park, they all headed home. Before saying goodbye, Ywa took several photos with Juno. The next day, Ywa received a message from Mino asking her to meet up. When they met, he told her that he and Juno weren't getting along. He asked her to convince Juno to hang out with them somewhere. Mino also wanted Ywa to come along, so things wouldn't be awkward between him and Juno. Hearing that, Ywa agreed to help with the plan. Before they finished talking, Mino made sure Ywa understood not to tell Juno that he would be at the event. He was worried Juno would refuse if he knew. Later that evening, while walking with Juno, Ywa suggested they go camping together on a mountain, just the two of them. Juno agreed, happy to spend time alone with her. Seeing Yunwa's happy face made Doha also happy. He started to think that maybe his reason for following her wasn't to harm her, but to keep seeing Rita's smile reflected on Yunwa's face. The next day, they went to the mountain as planned. When they arrived, Juno was surprised to see Mino already there. Despite feeling annoyed that this was supposed to be Ywa's thing, Juno had to go along with it. After they ate, Ywa started talking about what Duha was going through. But before they could get far in their conversation, Mino interrupted and asked Juno to come with him. Soon after, they sat at the top of the mountain, where Mino mentioned that it held many childhood memories for both of them. Since their parents passed away, they often went there to escape bullies who bothered them. After drinking coffee made by Mino, Juno suddenly passed out. When night came, Juno was surprised to find Ywa was no longer there. Meanwhile, Ywa found herself on a cliff with Mino. At that time, Mino, who believed Parksok's words that Juno's illness could only be cured by killing Ywa, pushed her off the cliff. Shortly after, the story takes us back to the time just before Rita and Doha's wedding. At that time, Rita is in a tough spot because she's supposed to marry Doha, who tragically killed her parents. Soon after, Doha visits Rita and urges her to leave because he doesn't want her to suffer by marrying someone she hates. But Rita knows they care for each other deeply, so she challenges Doha to prove it. There, Rita tells Doha to cross a pond, and if he crosses without turning back, she'll leave him forever. But if he turns around, she'll stay with him. Shortly after, Doha starts crossing without looking back, even when Rita tries to make him. He reaches the end without turning. Suddenly, Rita hugs him from behind, realizing she truly loves him. She confesses her love and imagines a life with Doha, free from hatred. At that moment, Ywa woke up and found Juno trying to help her. He quickly took her to the nearest hospital for treatment. Later, Mino came to see them and was surprised to see Ywa still alive. Feeling guilty, Mino left, but Juno stopped him. There, Juno asked Mino why he did such a thing to Ywa. Mino then explained everything, from his first encounter with Parksok to Parksok's claim that killing Ywa was the only way to save his younger brother's life. Hearing this, Doha said that Mino was only being used and Juno's real life had already ended. Doha added that killing Ywa wouldn't bring back the deceased and would only leave Mino with regret. Upon learning the truth, Mino felt deeply disappointed that Parksok had deceived him. He hurried to confront Parksok at his home, demanding an explanation. To Mino's surprise, Parksok didn't deny lying. Instead, he revealed that he was actually an evil spirit who had possessed the real Parksok's body. Meanwhile, Ywa went back home to Juno to make sure she was safe. She asked about her past life, which had led to a curse. At first, Juno and Doha were hesitant to explain the curse, but as Ywa persisted, Doha finally revealed that she was cursed to have a short life. So for 1500 years, Doha had followed Ywa's reincarnations, and she always died before turning 30. Now, coincidentally, Ywa was about to turn 30, meaning she had only a short time left. At that moment, they got a call from the hospital saying Mino was in a coma. Soon after, they rushed there and found out from the police that Mino was found in an old motel. Suddenly, a lawyer also arrived, frightened by Mino's condition and worried about Parksok, who might harm him. There, Juno noticed the lawyer and stopped him. He asked who had tried to harm Mino, and the lawyer said it was Parksok. Finally, they learned that the spirit possessing Parksok's body was Doha's stepfather, who had followed their reincarnations for 1500 years. However, Doha hadn't realized this until now. In the past, Doha's stepfather told Rita that she didn't need to kill Doha, because his father had plans to send Doha to a big war, where he would die. In the present, Ywa, feeling burdened by her curse, remembered the monk who had given her the amulet bracelet. Then, she decided to visit the monk to ask about the cause of her curse. However, the monk didn't directly explain the cause. Instead, he asked Ywa how she felt about Doha's spirit and suggested that her current life might be a way to break the curse. On her way home, Ywa couldn't stop thinking about the monk's words. She began to realize that she was starting to like Doha's spirit. Then Parksok visited her and revealed that Doha's spirit had possessed Juno's body. Ywa learned that her curse began when Rita started to like Doha. Parksok warned that history might repeat itself because of Ywa's love for Doha's spirit, just like in the past when Rita killed Doha to break the curse. Now, Ywa has to kill Juno's body to break the curse. Parksok pointed out a scar on Juno's neck as proof. After their meeting, Parksok, unable to kill Ywa before, tried again using Yisol's hand. On the other hand, after meeting Parksok, Ywa quickly told Juno that Parksok might be involved with them since he knew that Doha's spirit was controlling Juno's body. Ywa was shocked when she saw the wound on Juno's neck. She immediately believed that she, as Rita, was the one who killed Doha. That night, Ywa stayed at Juno's house. Feeling remorseful for her past actions as Rita, she was overwhelmed with sadness and regret for killing someone who truly loved her. The story then flashes back to the past. Doha's stepfather wanted to kill Doha because he believed a dog shouldn't outlive its master. Back then, Rita found out about Doha's stepfather's plan and decided to kill Doha's stepfather to protect Doha, but a serpent caught her, and she was tied up for punishment. There, Rita explained to Doha that she did it to save his life. After the incident, Doha hid Rita away. While on the run, Rita wanted to end everything to prevent more innocent people from getting hurt. But Doha wouldn't let her turn herself in because he promised to protect her forever. He'd rather finish off everyone than lose Rita. Rita chose to kill Doha instead of letting innocent people die. It turns out that all of this was what Ywa saw in her dream. Ywa couldn't believe she was the one who killed Doha in the past. She felt incredibly sad and regretful for killing someone who truly loved her. That morning, Doha or Juno felt pain in his neck again, a sign that his time was running out. But this time, he planned not to harm Ywa. Instead, he wanted to save her no matter what. Even though Ywa wasn't the one who killed, she still felt overwhelming guilt. Unable to hold back her tears, Ywa cried as she remembered her terrifying past. She felt she couldn't live with Doha anymore, so she left him. On her way, she ran into Nayan. Shortly after, Yisol arrived and tried to push Ywa in front of a passing car. But Nayan intervened and ended up getting hit by the car herself. Nayan was then taken to the hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, Yisol is at the police station for doing something bad. Later that afternoon, Ywa was alone when Parksok visited her. He revealed that he had been following Rita's reincarnations for 1500 years, and he was the one who had killed them all. Now, he was there to kill Ywa. Despite feeling relieved when Nayan woke up from her coma, Yunwa's happiness turned to worry when she remembered Parksok's threat to harm those around her. On the other hand, Doha finally confronted his stepfather again. They met at a flower shop, where Doha asked about his stepfather's intentions in following Rita's life. His stepfather confessed that he wanted to stay in this world just to see Doha suffer. He also claimed to have manipulated Ywa into doing terrible things to protect the people around her. Shocked by this revelation, Doha left to find Ywa. Soon after, Doha went to the hospital, but Nayan told him that Ywa had already left. Meanwhile, Ywa was thinking about how her past mistakes were causing suffering to the people she cares about. Feeling overwhelmed by guilt, she considered ending her life. Luckily, Doha arrived just in time and hugged her, asking to stay together and fight his stepfather. The next day, Doha went to the monk's temple to ask how to get rid of his father for good. However, the monk didn't give him a direct answer. Instead, he urged Doha to understand why his spirit was still lingering in this world. Meanwhile, Ywa, who was staying at Nayan's house, got a call from the hospital saying Mino was dying. They hurried to the hospital, but were surprised to find Parksok waiting there. Yunjae saw Parksok and quickly warned Doha that Ywa was in danger. Inside, Parksok threw a knife at Mino, but Yunwa's amulet protected them. Not wanting Mino to be the next victim, Ywa gave him the amulet and left to avoid Parksok. As she escaped, Parksok tried to stop her, saying that running away wouldn't solve everything. Luckily, Doha arrived just in time. Now realizing that his spirit follows Ywa to protect Rita's reincarnation from his father's cruelty, Doha tells Ywa to leave. He then faces Parksok, informing him that if Ywa reaches the age of 30, his father will disappear forever. Doha also understands that if his father disappears, he won't have a reason to stay in this world. This means both he and his father will vanish when Ywa turns 30. So, Doha is determined to protect Ywa until her birthday. On their way, the lawyer advised them not to go back home since Parksok already knows their address. He gave them an access card to Mino's company, a place only Mino knew about. This would keep them safe from Parksok's pursuit. Then the lawyer went to the police station to confess to Taeju's death and revealed that Parksok was behind Mino's suffering. At the hospital, Parksok lost track of Mino, who had been moved by Yunjae and Nayan. While escaping, Ywa fell asleep on Doha's shoulder and had a dream about the past. It was revealed that after Rita killed Doha, she initially wanted to end her own life. But Doha, in his dying moments, stopped her and urged her to leave, promising to protect her wherever she went. Back in the present, Ywa woke up realizing that Dova's spirit remained because of his promise to protect Rita forever. At the police station, the lawyer was surprised to see Park Sok disguised as a police officer. Park Sok demanded to know where Ywa and Doha were hiding. Meanwhile, Ywa and Do were on Jeju Island to escape Park Sok. They had a great time together, enjoying themselves. As midnight approached, they gathered to celebrate Yunhwa's birthday. But just as she was about to blow out the candles, Dova's father's spirit, now in Park Sok's body, arrived filled with anger and resentment. There, Dova quickly confronted Park Sok and told Yoonjae to take Yunhwa away. But Park Sok hit Yoonjae before they could leave. As they left the house, they realized they forgot the car keys. Soon after, Yunhwa went back for them, but Park Sok, now in control, chased her. Just as Yunhwa was in danger, Mino came to protect her with the amulet. And when Yunhwa was threatened again, Doha arrived to shield her. After that night, Yunhwa woke up in the hospital. There, Nayeon told her that Yoonjae and Mino were arranging Juno's funeral. But they were all surprised when Juno, alive again, showed up. Yoonjae explained the miracle to Yunhwa, who rushed to find Doha. However, she discovered that the one alive now wasn't Doha, but the real Juno. Long story short, 8 years has passed since the incident, and Juno is back to being his energetic self. For the past year, he couldn't shake off thoughts about someone named Yunhwa, but Mino never explained who she was. Then one day while reading, Juno stumbled upon some items and photos left by Doha. In one photo, he saw himself with a woman and pressed Mino to explain. There, Mino revealed that the woman was Yunhwa, who had saved Juno from drowning in the water. Mino also explained that Yunhwa was the reason for Juno's current state. Grateful, Juno wanted to meet Yunhwa to thank her. Meanwhile, Yunhwa has returned to her job as a firefighter. However, even after 8 years has passed, she still can't forget her memories with Doha, who ever lived Juno's body before. One day, Mino asked Yunhwa to meet him at the old temple, where the monk used to be. There, Yunhwa was deeply moved to see Juno, who came to thank her. She couldn't help but feel sad, even shedding tears when she saw Juno's expression. During the meeting, Juno handed her a letter that he hadn't written. Then, he bid farewell and left. At the beach, Yunhwa reads the letter from Doha. He expresses his wish to stay as a ghost so he can always be with her, but he knows she's suffering. So he decides to move on, hoping she can live happily and they'll meet again in the next life. From then on, Yunhwa starts each day with a smile and hope, believing their story will continue in the future. During Yunhwa's flight to Antarctica, she dreams again about Rita and Doha. This time, Rita doesn't kill Doha, but chooses to die alongside him, promising to continue their story in the next life. Later, we see a high school student taking photos at a historical site. She's amazed to see the moon shining during the day. Suddenly, a handsome man approaches her, and it turns out they're the reincarnations of Doha and Rita or Yunhwa, starting their new story together. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you're dating someone possessed by a spirit, make sure they're not just haunting you for attention.